Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Happy April. Today we're going to be setting up my planners and journals for April 2026. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, you guys, it is time to set up for April 2026. So we're setting up for quarter two. I can't believe we're already getting to quarter two of 2026. This year has been both extremely long so far and extremely short. I'm sure you kind of know what I mean because I feel like it's like that for everyone. So this is my journal so far this year. It is starting to bulk up a little bit, but I'm going to try my best to keep it from getting too bulky. But of course, what I'm going to do today is set up my goals and my vision board in my monthly calendar in there. My everyday carry, I'm going to set up my weekly spreads and my monthly spread and just kind of make sure my calendars are all up to date. My take a note, I'm going to set up my monthly spread and get everything set up actually for May because I like to plan 1 month in advance in here because this is where I do a lot of my future planning. And then I'm going to do my craft planning trackers and set up my trackers and my calendar in here. As usual, I have timestamps down below so that you can jump around if you only want to watch 1 or 2 of my setups. Otherwise, go ahead and sit down, maybe grab your planners and plan along with me for April. I think this month I'm going to actually I kind of want to start with my vision board, but that one definitely takes the longest. So I'm going to push that to the side and I'm going to start with my functional planners because I think that these ones are always the quickest and easiest to do. And usually I can kind of talk through the process with you a little bit as well. So just a little bit of background on how I use these. And in case you are completely new to my channel, I have a full video sharing my lineup and setup for the new year. I will link that in the description box below if you want to see a little bit more about how I'm using each planner and journal. I tend to stick with my same plan throughout the year. I'm just not someone who really enjoys planner hopping or journal hopping. Sometimes if something's not working for me, I will tweak it, but I have been doing similar systems for a few years. So I usually just tweak at the new year. So those are pretty on point with what I'm actually doing, even though we're getting to quarter two. So what I do, just comparing the take a note with my everyday carry, which this is actually a weekly diary from Soft Paper Studios. I believe she's changed her name a few times. And it is essentially a Hobonichi Weeks without the branding and on like more white paper. I do like the fact that it does not have the quotes or the yellow pages of Hobonichi Weeks. I am hating that it is not lay flat and it is not dated. So I have more work to do to set it up. So next year I'm probably going to be in the market for a different brand, but something similar. So how I use this and my take a note. So my take a note is my functional planner, but this stays at home on my desk. I have all of my details in here of everything I have future planning for my months. I also use the weekly spreads in here. So the weekly spreads in the take a note cover 2 pages and you have a horizontal weekly and a column per day. And I use this for my daily to-do lists and daily planning, as well as some functional memory keeping to keep track of what happened each day. I do share full flip throughs of completed spreads in both of these planners in my monthly journal and planner flip through. The last one that went live was my March one. So if you are, actually no, just kidding. The last one that went live was my February one. My March one will be coming soon. So if you are interested, I will link that in the description box below, but you can go ahead and see kind of the after the month in those videos. So for the monthly spreads in here, I tend to plan 1 month in advance. So I set up April already last month in my March plan with me. But for the actual month I'm living, I do need to put my task list and my goals and things for April. And then I will set up May so that I can go ahead and start looking forward to May as I'm living life during April. In my everyday carry, so this one has Still a functional planner, so a lot of things are duplicated, but this has less detail. And this is what I take with me on the go. And I have the full year already set up in here because I do have things that are planned out through the end of 2026. So I need a place to have that on paper so I can reference it. And this is what I have with me if I am, at the dentist and scheduling another appointment. I'm flipping through here to see when I'm available. The weekly spreads in here I use primarily just to keep notes during the day and keep track of my meal planning. And this one comes along with me, whereas this one stays at home. As far as setting up, I don't really have much I need to do on my monthly calendar in here. What I do need to do in here is transfer anything that is on this calendar that has not yet made it here. I try to update this as I go, but I'm not always the best with that. And I can tell that there are some things that are not updated on here, or even on here actually. I'm telecommuting that day. Oh, I put it on this one, not that one. I have my paydays already scheduled in here. Let's see, I have some meetings this day. And I think that's it. Oh, I have a meeting this day. I think that's it. That's the only thing I had missed on this one. I was just referencing my work calendar, which I keep a separate work calendar because a lot of what I do at work is confidential and I don't like mixing my work and personal, even if it wasn't. The only thing that I put on here on my private planner are just the idea that I have a meeting. So I have a meeting here on, it's a call because I'm working from home on the 16th with audit. Now in my work planner, it will tell me what that case is for and what's going on and everything. But for here, I just need to put on here that I have that so that, for example, say I need to make a dentist appointment. I know I am busy that day, so I won't be able to schedule it, even though normally I would be working, but I would do it as a dentist appointment during the workday and take some time off work. But I can't do that because I have a meeting. So having that just referenced in here, just so I know that I'm busy, is really my only goal from this. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is put you guys on voiceover and set up the rest of this spread. Essentially, I need to transfer all of my tasks over to here, my cleaning tasks. I need to fill in my goals for April. I need to then set up May and put as much as I can from May into here. And then what I need to do is go ahead and do my weekly spreads in here. So I'm going to put you guys on voiceover while I get these ones put together, and then I will move on to another one. Okay, so I'm mostly going to do music on this video as I put things together because I have so much of me kind of live talking through the process, but I wanted to pop on a little bit and share just a few of my details of what I'm doing here. So for setting up May, you saw me set up most of this. I'm using the Coffee Monster Co. monthly kits. I use the kits that are designed for the Hobonichi cousin. I'm not sure if that's the one she recommends for the taken out, but it works for me. The only thing I have to do is I cut down the titles for the days of the week, but you saw me do that. In that right box next to each week, I'm writing down what my Project Life kit is or plan for that spread. I do Project Life primarily weekly, even though I don't stick to official week numbers. Usually I stick with a general week unless I'm traveling. So it works to kind of add that in here in my planner. And then I have that information available as I'm kind of checking my planner. So in case I'm working with a theme in Project Life and I need to collect themed photos or something like that, it is available to me as I'm looking at my planner. It's to remind me to do that during that week. I went through my stickers to find a sticker of a little doctor guy for my dentist appointment that is in May. I have been adding more stickers to my calendars lately. I did not used to be super sticker heavy in my calendars, and I think I'm still on the lighter side compared to some people's calendars, but I have been wanting to use them more just because, well, I think they're cute. And I have so many stickers, and the only way I can justify buying stickers is if I'm using those stickers. For this spread here, I've been using my Pilot Kakuno fountain pen. This is a fountain pen that is very cheap, and I highly recommend it from Amazon. I'm just using it with ink cartridges at this point, but you can put a converter in there and put bottled ink in it. I just haven't tried it yet. I will link that one in the description box below if you're interested. On the April spread here, I'm putting a list of all of my tasks on the left-hand side. And essentially, those are my routine cleaning tasks in my home, and then some additional tasks that I want to do in April that aren't necessarily things that I would do all of the time. So they're like once a year or a couple like more deep cleaning tasks. And some of the things are not always cleaning, but it's usually cleaning tasks that are on this list here. Across the top of the spread, I'm adding in my primary goals for the month, and these are just like my general personal goals. So for April, I decided that spring cleaning and yard work is really going to be a priority. Finishing my craft room clean out, which has been something I've been working on for quite some time now. And then just making some projects. I am super excited for April because February I traveled, which was fun, but March, coming off of vacation, I was been stressed and kind of just in like keep up mode. So I'm hoping that for April, especially, I'm going to start feeling more relaxed, and it's getting warmer out. I hate the winter, so getting out of winter is the best. And I'm just excited to transition into a new season. Moving on to my everyday carry, here you can see I'm just adding in stuff to set up the weeklies. And this is part of the reason why I don't like having this undated, because I wouldn't have to do this if it was dated, and I actually like the way it looks better when it's pre-printed. So whatever. I use some stickers from Sterling Ink for the days of the week, and then I'm using a Tombow Funisuki soft tip to add the numbers. And then I can't remember what I end up doing for the days of the week, but that's for the month. So what I end up doing is I'm stamping out the month at the top. And I had handwritten it for March, and I just didn't like the way it worked. So I'm just stamping APR at the top of each one using this little wooden stamp set. So the only thing that is handwritten is the number, and I just like that a little bit better. I really want it pre-printed. I like the clean lines look of it being pre-printed, but I am going to stick with this for the rest of the year, even though I think I would prefer a different one. Just because I have it and my stickers are already in it. Okay, I'm going to move on to my journal now and work on my goals for setting up my goals for April. So I'm going to put some music on, and then I'll talk you through them at the end. Okay, so I just did my goals page and I just want to talk through this a little bit rather than doing it during the voiceover. So for my goals, I stopped doing monthly goals a few years ago, and this is the first year I'm back to doing them, and I am happy that I'm doing them, but I haven't been great at checking in with them. That said, February was a really, really rough month, and then March, I just started to feel like myself again towards the second half of the month. And I did do a decent amount of things on here. I haven't done everything. Some of this I will still do in March, but I do want to maybe do some reflecting on this. So I think what I want to do is maybe focus on, actually, I'm going to add one more for that. I'm going to do a weekly goal check-in because I feel like I really need that. My hope is that I actually am using and looking at these goals, because if you write your goals down and you never look at it again, it is pretty useless. It's not going to be helpful. So I do want to check in with this every week. So if you are new here, you missed it, at the beginning of the year, I have a video where I set up my goals for the year and I broke them into 5 categories: home, fun, creative, health, and self. And some things kind of overlap, like redoing my craft room, finish my craft room decor is both creative and home, and crafts are obviously both creative and fun. So certain things definitely overlap, and I'm not too worried about that. But essentially, I broke down my goals for the year, and then as I set my goals each month, I'm reflecting back on my annual goals and the goals from the previous month to see what I wanted to get done. So let's talk about my home goals first. So over here, and I think I want to check in here. So decorating my master bath, this is 100% done. So I'm just going to check that one off. That is done. Then I want to paint the interior of my house, get the main part of my house painted. That is scheduled for April. So I put that here and then hanging the art back up because everything has to come down to be painted. Then on here, I had my house journal, so I want to keep updated and backfill some information. So I did put backfill Q1 in my house journal. So if you're not familiar with my house journal, I have a separate video sharing what that is, but I do keep up with it pretty regularly, but I do have a few years from before I was keeping the journal that I need to kind of backfill in there. So that's something I want to work on this month. And then I have calm and cozy vibes, prioritize loving my home. I didn't have anything specific for that this month that I need to work on. That's just an overall goal. And then clean. I want to work on my deep cleaning and my routine cleaning. So this month, because it's spring, I want to do some spring cleaning. So that's a little bit more deep cleaning than I normally would do. And my spring yard work, where I live, our yard is gone for the winter. It's covered in snow. And so there's a lot of like cleanup and getting it ready for spring, which I don't love, but I'm also very excited for. Then moving to fun. So my goals for this year for fun were travel to Southeast Asia. That happened in February. Small adventures, explore more of New York State and visit little shops. I'm doing that in March. I'm going to do that throughout the year. I don't have any plans to do that in April, so I'm going to not put that on there. I'm going to Japan to celebrate turning 40, and that's not happening until later this year. Hobbies, I want to prioritize my hobbies and having fun. So that's really what I'm doing here. I want to craft just for fun. And then I also put have fun crafting in creative. Those go together. I want to go on a fun date and prioritize just picking something to do with my significant other. And then I want to do a puzzle. That was on my list for February and March. I didn't do it. I did one in January and I loved it. But then I was just so burned out and busy. I didn't have time to just like lounge and do a puzzle. And I think I will have the time for that in April. And it's still not quite that warm outside. So I think it's a good time to maybe do one more before it is no longer indoor cozy season. And then let's see, I also have grace for fun time. So I don't want to feel guilty for prioritizing my fun. So that is kind of implicit in these goals. And then getting outside. I want to go to Banff and hike. That is a trip I have planned in June. Creative. So I want to get 10,000 on YouTube. I think I might hit that in April. Maybe not. I'm not going to put it on my goals, but it is still in the back of my mind. I want to prep content early. So that is something I really did focus on in March because I was really behind in February and I'm feeling better now, but I want to make sure I'm still prepping my content ahead, and I want to have some backup videos ready, which is something I've never done in the past, where I have some videos that are filmed and edited but not shared. And I'm thinking I will do that with my travel and document videos. That's the goal, at least, so that I can use them if I fall behind and I'm stressed and I need extra content. That would be really nice to have. Then I want to keep up with my projects, reduce my stash, and finish my craft room decoration and redo. So I want to be caught up on my projects. I want to purge and finalize my craft room redo. So get rid of a lot of supplies. I've been working through that since in March, and I'm hoping to finish that this month. And again, the have fun crafting. Moving on to health. I want to do yoga 200 times this year. I have not counted them up, but I do keep track of that. My Apple Watch tracks it, and then I have it tracked in my Take a Note. So I just need to come back and do a check-in on numbers, but I want to do 15 times in April. For headache treatment, I want to get medication. I suffer from really bad headaches, and so I'm trying to work on getting a better process in place for that. I do have a headache clinic appointment, so that has been on the calendar for months. It's finally happening in April, so that is a big point for that. I'm going to work on my work-life balance, try some new recipes, have better sleep, and limited soda intake. So I want to make a dinner list collection in my everyday carry, where I'm keeping track of all of the dinners that are kind of in our rotation, because we forget about things and then we do things too often. And then I just want to work on my work flow and kind of my balance between work and home. I feel like I'm getting myself in a little bit better place at work, but I do have a very high stress job with a lot of pressure, and I want to work on that in April. Then for self, I have journal daily, read 25 books, give myself grace, cherish and strengthen my relationships, remove mental clutter, read 4 nonfiction books, and keep up with my journals. So I want to work on my practices, which is like my commonplace book. I have my cross stitch, my stamp organization. These are things that I do like periodically. And I just want to prioritize making time for them this month. I want to read every day. I want to journal every day, which are 2 things that I usually do, but I really want to make sure that I don't miss any days. In my daily journal, I'm very good about journaling every day, but sometimes I will skip a day and come back and fill it in. So I want to actually prioritize doing it on that day. And then I want to do 1 lingering task per week. So this is just working through that mental clutter. I have a lot of tasks that just kind of sit on my task list forever and keep getting moved. And I want to work through those. So I'm going to just make myself do 1 per week and try to work through that backlog. And then the weekly goal check-in. So I think that that is a good place for going into April. And now what I need to do is set up my monthly calendar and do my vision board. So I'm probably going to do my vision board first, because I'm going to go through my magazines, cut stuff out, and then I'll work on getting both of these put together and share that with you guys on here. Okay, so I always start my vision board process with flipping through some magazines to cut some stuff out. And I also am cutting things out just in general, not just for my vision board. You can see I'm creating a stack of words that I might want to include on my vision board this month. I'm also cutting out things that I might want to put into my stash of magazine cutouts, and I'm definitely cutting out alphas. You can see I pulled out a recipe here, just I thought it looked interesting, something I wanted to do, but not for my journal. So just because I'm flipping through the magazine for a vision board doesn't mean I can't also pull out other things for other purposes. I really love the Magnolia journal as a place to cut things out. It's probably my favorite magazine for this. It's probably my favorite magazine in general. It is a little bit of a higher price point compared to some other magazines, but it's definitely one that I love. And I really like the fonts and the design in it. As you can see, there's just a lot of pages that have just really pretty things. This one has just some, kind of like sentiments on a nice background. In the past, I've used some of these pages as full backgrounds, but for this one, I'm just cutting out a few words and phrases from it. I have found that lately I've been cutting out more phrases as opposed to just words. And I really like how that looks on vision boards. So I'm definitely going to do that this month. So you'll be able to see that in the process. I also really like the colors and fonts used in this magazine more than a lot of other magazines. So I add a lot of letters to my letter organizer here from it. I like to use these. I use these in my vision board and my calendar to put the name of the month, but I also use them in my daily journal spreads and other places. So I just like having that stash of letters and as a way to kind of use another font in my journal whenever I feel like it. I cut out that kind of grid of colors, which I think will be really pretty for layering. Lately in my daily journal, I've been doing a lot more layering of embellishments and trying to make some kind of clusters. That is something I'm not the best at in a journaling perspective, but something I've been working on more and I've been really happy with it. You can see I'm just pulling out so many letters to put in my alpha organizer because there's just so many fonts that I like. I'm also looking for ones that have more unique letters because there's certain letters that you just don't find as much. I talk about this probably in every one of these videos, but J is kind of like, the golden prize when you find it because it's so hard to find J's. But other letters too, sometimes there's just some other letters that are nice to cut out. I cut out that ampersand. It was super cute. And just moving on through some other things, I did like the font of those words with the ampersand, but they were just a little too big for my stash of letters. I try to keep them around the same size so that I can work with them together on the same word. So I'm going to go ahead and keep flipping through some magazines and cutting stuff out, and I'll put some music on for a little bit, and then I'll pop back on as I get my vision board put together. Okay, so as I start on my vision board, my first step is to select some background images. This year, my vision board is a 2-page spread in my journal. If you want to do a 1-page spread, that works really well as well. And that's what I did in the past few years. When I was in the Hobonichi Cousin, I used that kind of landing page right before the daily days that sounds funny, right before the daily pages to create my vision board, and it was a 1-page spread. I really like having the 2-page spread, but it is definitely more time consuming, but it gives me the ability to use a few more pieces, and especially with my background images, to include a few more images. So I end up selecting quite a few for this month. I go with that window with the flowers that I've just put on that stack there. So what I had done was kind of went through all of my things and then selected a few to pull from. So what I end up doing as my base is that window with the flowers and this sponge one, because it's for spring cleaning. And I've had that sponge one in my stash for a really long time because I've had mixed feelings about it. So part of me is like, why am I putting cleaning on my vision board? That's boring and not fun. But it's also important to me. And just the feeling of a clean, fresh space is so refreshing and really what I want in spring. So I'm excited to put that on my vision board. And because it is the sponges though, and I don't really want that to be my full kind of story for my vision board, I am going to add a few other images as the background on that end as well. I'm starting with the left-hand side here. I'm adhering down this image. When you crop your images to fit in, just make sure they don't go all the way to the crease, because if they do go too far to the crease of the book, then the pages won't turn smoothly. It will fold it over and it will get bunched up and add a lot of bulk. So what I do is I don't go all the way to the center of the crease, and then I add some white washi tape along the edge there to kind of hold down that edge of the paper. So I first start cropping down this photo that is of a kid flying a kite, but then I quickly pivot and decide to use the sponge page instead. And what I'm going to end up doing is using the sponge page as a base, but I'm going to add a couple more images on top of it. And this, again, is a reason why I really like having this double spread, because it gives me more space for some images to pop through without adding a ton of words on top, because I have both sides to add all of my words. And you'll see what I mean as this comes together. So I added this lady gardening and this lady sitting in her bedroom, kind of staring out the window. I think that those are both kind of good images for me this month, and you can see the sponges peeking through the top and the bottom. Now I'm going into my alpha organizer and I'm going to write out the word April. I write it out twice, once that's going to go on my vision board here and once that's going to go on my monthly calendar. It just makes sense to me to do them both at the same time because it's a little bit of a quicker process, and I can shift letters back and forth between the two versions of the word so that I have a collection of fonts and colors that I really like together. Sometimes I go with a color scheme for my alphas here and other times I don't. It really just depends on how I'm feeling. Here I'm going with some kind of bright and fun springy colors. At least some of them are that way, and I feel like they look springy and fun. I decide I'm going to put the word April on the right-hand side with the sponges and images, and just kind of where those images break, I'm adding the white washi along the edge, just like I did on the other side. And then what I'm going to do is add some washi tape as a base for my alphas. And I like this just as a way to have those alphas kind of pop off the page. You don't need to do it, but I think it just helps kind of highlight the title. So I added a gray grid washi, and then I'm just adhering down the April on top of it. And you can see how it's just kind of pops a little bit. Now I'm going to my monthly calendar and I'm going to add the April on here. I will come back and set up the rest of this calendar after I finish my vision board. But essentially this calendar is a place where I put just an icon per day. So I just have to add the numbers for the dates and the days of the week because this is an undated planner or journal. It's not as undated. It doesn't feel that undated because the daily pages are dated. They just don't have a day of the week, so they could be used any year, but the calendars are undated. So that's the only part I really have to set up. At this point, I'm going through my sentiments to figure out what I want to put in my vision board. And I'm also going through my trays. So new this year, I decided that as part of my monthly plan with me process, I'm going to go through my tray of words and phrases that I have cut out. You saw that little wooden tray. It's in the top right corner of the screen. That stays on my desk all the time. And so I like to put some words and phrases in there that I might want to use in my daily journal. And I try to flip through it pretty regularly to pull some things out. So I'm looking for sentiments that I'm going to want during the month of April in that little tray. And I'm also going through this tray here to kind of see what I want to add to the wooden tray or what I want to take out of the wooden tray, and using that as my kind of starting point to kind of clean out my stash a little bit. And even if I'm not cleaning it out, part of it is just reminding myself of what's in there so that when I am journaling, I will remember, oh, I have this sentiment or whatever it is that's in there that might work for the story I'm trying to tell in my journal. Now I'm working on putting this phrase on my spread. And this phrase is just a longer sentiment that I've had in my stash for quite a bit. So I cut it into strips, and then I'm going to use rolling adhesive to add it on here as strips. You can see I made it shorter than it was on the original from the magazine. And that's just so that it will fit on this page the way that I want around the two women on here. And I really like the way this looks to add these larger phrases as opposed to just words. And you'll see I added a few different phrases on this vision board as it comes together. At this point, I'm just going to go through all of the words and phrases that I have left and add them on in a way that I think looks pretty. I'm going to fill up the left side and the right side. I tend to do kind of like a vertical column across the spread and shift the words and phrases around to match kind of where I feel like they just look good on top of the background and next to the other pieces. So those, for example, that's a little sentiment there. It says what's consistent is ever changing. And I'm just going through and adding everything on here and bringing this one together. Okay, so last but not least is my craft planner. And I have not been in here very well the first few months of the year because like I think I mentioned earlier in this video, February we were traveling for half the month, and then I had a really rough time when I got back. Work was really stressful. I was dealing with extreme jet lag because I was a 13-hour time difference, which is about as bad as it can be. Anything more than that, you start kind of coming back. So it was a struggle. Plus it's winter, and winter is always a little brutal where I live because it's so cold and gloomy and dark all of the time. In fact, it's very gloomy and dark outside now, even though it is late March, because that's where I live. So for updating my craft planner, what I need to do is my monthly spread. I need to set up my monthly spread, and this is where I track all of my content that goes on social media. So I have my March here. This, you can just see what's already scheduled. By the time you're watching this, March will be over, so you will have seen everything that is on here will already be live on my accounts. But I'm basically going to set up April in the same way. I also need to do my monthly trackers. So here's my March trackers, and I will set up another page with my April trackers. And I can't finalize my March ones because it's not quite the end of March yet, but I will do that on my own, probably on April 1st. But what I haven't been doing are a couple of things in the beginning. So I have at the very beginning of this journal, there are my craft goals for the year, and I have not checked in with this once. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I also have my index, and I haven't checked in with this since January. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. So let's talk through my craft goals first. And I'm going to use a gel pen for this because I have dots here and it's easier to check off with that than a fountain pen. So I'm in the middle of my closet clean out. I am not done, and I am working on these things, but I'm not done yet. Let's see. I've been working on all of these. They're all in progress. There's nothing I think that I have actually finished so far this year, which is totally fine. But what I haven't been doing is updating these with my goals. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that really quickly. And my plan, my original intention was to write like the 3 focuses of the month here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And let's see, what were my focuses? Yeah, so I'll put on some music while I finish this really quickly. Okay, so I didn't check anything off for March because like I said, March is not done yet. In January, my main focuses were to finish my 2025 Project Life, which I did, start my 2026 projects, which I did, and keep up with Project Life 2026, which I did. In January, I did really well. Then February, I really kind of fell off. I did do my creative team projects, and the months that have pink, those are the months I'm traveling, so I know I'm going to have less of a focus. So something like just keeping up with my creative team projects might be on this list, whereas it's not going to be on my list for my other months. It's something I'm going to do, but it's not my main focus because I just have more time to craft in those months. Keep up with Project Life. I did not do very well with that in February. I did some, but I did definitely fall behind. So one of my goals in March was to catch up with Project Life again. And then in February, I wanted to really keep up with my journals And I had mixed results. I did do well with my daily journal, but my take a note has really fallen behind. And so I really want to get those kind of caught up. And that will probably be one of my goals in April. But for March, I really was focusing on catching up Project Life, which, you know what, I'm going to just check that off because I am already caught up on that. My craft room closet, I started that clean out in March. It is in the middle and it is a disaster, but that's okay. And then my 2026 layouts, I just want to work on my 2026 story album a lot. I have that, I call them mini me albums. Sometimes I call them stories. But I really want to kind of focus on those because I haven't really touched them since January. And I did a couple layouts in March, but I do still have some work to do on those to kind of feel caught up. And then I will do my April planning in a moment. But next, I just need to update my index. And this is one I'm not so great at doing that often, but you know, I want it here. So in case I'm looking for something to reference, I will have it in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the next few things and then we'll move on to the monthly calendar. Okay, so I updated my index, and as you can see, like I said, in February, I really wasn't in here. I did my trackers and that's it. Typically in a month, I would have at least something. So in January, I did my storyteller planning for the first storyteller kit for 2026. In April, I will definitely do the second one of those. So that will be in my April trackers, which will come next. I'm actually just gonna put those in now because that is something I'm going to do on this video, is set up my April trackers. And let me just go and see if I have the page numbers. Yeah, so 45 and 46. And then I will also probably do my week in the life plans in April. So I will have a couple more things in here, which is what my goal is, to use this more and really have this be available for me to have all of my craft planning in here. But because I wasn't crafting that much in February and I was really in kind of catch up mode, I wasn't planning any new projects. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip to my monthly section and put you guys on a combination of music and voiceover as I get my April calendar set up, and then I will move on to my April projects and products. Okay, so I talked through a little bit earlier in the video about what my goals are for April, but I wanted to just talk through a little bit as I'm writing them out. So I'm really focused on kind of catching up through project life. I want to obviously stay on top of all my creative team projects, and those are usually the top two things on every project tracker for me because those are kind of my two kind of mainstay things that I work on all the time, even if I don't have a ton of craft time. Then I have my craft room clean, and that is really a priority. I want to finish that in April because I feel like a lot of my mental clutter is caused by a lot of the physical clutter that's around me. So I just don't have great systems in place for everything. If you've been around a while, you know I do have a lot of organization in my craft room and I do have a lot of systems, but there are still areas where there's just clutter and piles of things or kind of catch all bins. And I really need to go through and redo that, clean it out. My closet was this huge dumping ground, so I'm definitely working through that. And I think it's going to be done in April, but that's really a priority. Then I have an other projects section, and in there, I just wrote the other things I really want to work on. So my mini-me album for 2026, I really want to catch up and finish the first quarter of the year, or at least finish all the projects I currently have planned for the first quarter of the year. I want to finish all of the gaps in my take a note. For February, I had quite a few gaps, and I need to back journal those, and I just haven't finished it yet, but I want to. And then I want to catch up on my stamp organization process. I do have a lot of videos, or I have a couple of videos on that system, and I will link that in the description box below for you. But I do have a stamp organization system, which does take a little bit of time to update whenever I get new stamps. And I was really updated, but I kind of fell off of it because I didn't update it for, I want to say, over a year. So I have all of the stamps that I acquired in that time frame, and they're not in my system. And I tend to get a lot of new stamps in because I am on creative teams that send me stamps. So I have a lot of new stamps every month. So now I'm just setting up my trackers, which is the same way that it is every month. If you've watched my previous Plan With Me videos, I have talked about in more detail how my product trackers work. But essentially, I'm tracking the products that are coming in and out of my stash as I'm working to try to reduce what I have in my stash. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.